With the return of ReZero Season 3 after almost 4 years of waiting, we finally get to see how much Subaru and everyone else have grown as characters, as well as what's next for them, especially in regards to the royal selection and the fight against the witch cult. And Season 3 will be answering just that, so in today's video, I wanted to do a breakdown for both episode 1 and 2, along with providing context on some of the removed content. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Now then, episode 1 has a whopping 90 minutes of runtime, and it covers all the contents found in volume 16, while episode 2 covers stuff from volume 17, mainly chapter 1 and partially touching on chapter 2 as well. So starting with episode 1, it begins with Subaru doing physical training in an obstacle course that he created with help from Garfield and Klein, a butler that served the Mater's family for many years, and he briefly made an appearance back in season 2, although I don't understand why he doesn't even get a passing mention because despite being a minor character in the light novel, he was quite essential in helping Subaru's growth. For instance, after Subaru was knighted in Season 2, Klein was the one that taught him knightly etiquette and how to better control his emotions to behave with more decorum. Subaru even learned to appreciate the customs that he once ridiculed. In addition to that, Klein was also the one that helped Subaru to develop a fighting style that suited his more unusual and crafty nature, which is why we see him using a whip as his weapon of choice. And regarding the whip itself, it was apparently made from the guilty Lao that attacked the ReZero Manor, so Subaru named it the Guilty Whip. That said, we'll see Beatrice greeting Subaru at the training grounds and learn that it has been a year since the events at the sanctuary. So it wasn't surprising how close they seem to have grown with each other during that period, but their play fighting was soon interrupted by Petra, who informed them about visitors at the ReZero Manor and that Emilia has called for them. Speaking of the ReZero Manor, this wasn't explicitly mentioned in the anime, but the mention was actually a new one that was described to be much larger and grandiose than the one that burned down back in Season 2. So going back to the mansion, Mimi was outside to greet them and we see more familiar faces as well, such as Ram, who was giving her usual sassy attitude towards Subaru, Garfield, who was now the shield of Emilia along with Otto, the chief domestic advisor of the Emilia camp, and most importantly Emilia herself, the one with the most character growth during the 1-year skip. But jokes aside, we are then introduced to Joshua Juculius, the younger brother of Julius and his biggest glazer. And I have to say, Subaru definitely matured a lot as he was trying so hard to put on a forceful smile when praising Julius in front of Joshua. In any case, Joshua was apparently sent by Anastasia Hoshin because she wanted to formally invite the Emilia camp to the Watergate city of Pristella, offering them information on a merchant that is in possession of a magic crystal powerful enough to house Park. And if you guys forgotten, the previous one used by Emilia had broken during the events at the sanctuary, so she needed a new one, but since Park is a greater spirit, a higher grade crystal will be required in order to serve as his anchor. Of course, this initially had Subaru worried because Anastasia had manipulated him once before during the incident involving the White Whale, but Subaru only changes his mind in the light novel when Emilia stated that if Joshua was sent as the messenger, it likely meant that Anastasia had no ulterior motives, since sending the blood relative of a personal knight is considered as a sign of acknowledgement. But another reason that wasn't included into the episode as well, Subaru thought it was still worth the risk because having Park return would not only improve Emilia's mental state for the royal selection, but have her regain some of her lost combat capabilities. That's why Subaru and Emilia ultimately decided to accept the offer, leading to them having a discussion with ReZero about it, and even though he was being critical of their choice because Emilia was supposed to be preparing for a meeting with some western nobles, but due to the oath he made in the previous season, he had to agree with Emilia's choice. Moving on, when Subaru was having a bonding session with the boys, there was a wholesome detail from Garfield not shown in the episode, where he reveals that he has been consistently writing letters to Ryuzu. Even Frederica wrote letters as well, although it wasn't as frequent as Garfield. And speaking of Ryuzu, she was now staying in Arlem Village with the other replicas to teach them about everyday life. With that, Subaru and his team departed for Pristella, which took them 12 days in order to reach, so during the journey, Subaru took turns with Otto to drive the dragon carriage, while Garfield occasionally ran alongside them because he felt dull just sitting inside. And during the journey, we'll be given an update on the other royal selection candidates by Otto, so to explain, at the beginning, Anastasia and Krush were supposed to be the favorites, while the remaining 3 were simply there to fill in the numbers. But ever since Krush lost her memories to the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, her standing has greatly diminished. Anastasia, on the other hand, was still gaining momentum thanks to the backing of the Hoshin company. However, the other 3 seat fillers were growing as well. Emilia's camp has earned the recognition of the public thanks to Subaru's contribution in defeating the White Whale and the Sin Archbishop of Sloth. As for Priscilla, she not only inherited the lands of her deceased husband, which bordered the empire of Wallachia, but having managed to pacify the empire from attacking, revitalize the impoverished villagers of her lands, and made allies with the local nobilities, paired that with her beauty and talent for manipulating the hearts of people, her position was quickly improving as well. Lastly, Felt's camp only had the name of the sword saint Reinhard as their claim to fame in the beginning, but thanks to her flexible thinking and focus on reforming outcasts and peasants, she was able to earn the support of the everyday people, which greatly improved her standing as well. Now arriving at the Watergate city of Pristella, there was some additional information on the city that were not explained in anime, such as the city resembling a giant stadium, and once you get closer to the city center, the elevation will get lower because it was originally designed as a water trap, although Beatrice did state it's unknown what or who it was for. Adding to this, the city itself was divided into 4 districts and there were 4 control towers as well, which were fitted with meteor, also known as meteor devices, that not only helped to regulate the water current inside, but to control the floodgates as well. Having explained that, inside the city, Emilia's camp soon arrived at the inn that Anastasia prepared, where Subaru easily recognized the Japanese-inspired architecture, and having learned more about Hoshin of the Waste, the hero who founded the city-states of Kararagi, along with the similarities of the so-called Kararagi tradition with Japanese culture, Subaru concluded that this person was likely an otherworlder as well. And this would actually be the second otherworlder Subaru has met, because in the light novel, L had revealed the truth to him during their first meeting, which was supposed to have taken place back in season 1, but the anime chose to remove this particular detail. And this really puts into question, what was the reason or catalyst that caused Subaru to be transported to the ReZero world in the first place, and whether or not the time differences between the arrival of the hero Hoshin around 4 centuries ago, Al 20 years earlier, and Subaru just 1 year ago had any impact on this. Either way, Anastasia along with Julius would welcome the Emilia camp to the inn, and even though Subaru still felt inferior when it came to Julius, at least he was now carrying himself in a more mature manner. I would even dare say that they are more or less friends now as compared to their first encounter. Also, this wasn't mentioned when Julius greeted Beatrice in the episode, but apparently, because of his blessing which causes spirits to be drawn to him, Beatrice briefly felt a flutter in her heart, although she reassured Subaru that the blessing is only effective against lesser spirits. So back to business, having learned about the merchant from the Muse company, Anastasia had arranged a meeting for Subaru's party, but on the way over, Subaru would get seasick from the dragon boat, which forced him to leave the boat with Beatrice. And this separation from the group would lead into the part where Subaru encounters Liliana, but despite what the anime might imply, this wasn't actually their first meeting because in the light novel, she was already acquainted with Subaru and Beatrice all the way back in Arc 3 when she was invited to perform at Rosewall Manor. However, this obviously has been retconned in the anime, instead making it their first meeting, and it seems that Subaru has a new not-so-flattering nickname. Regardless, Liliana helps to guide Subaru and Beatrice to the Muse company, where we are introduced to Kiritaka, but the meeting ended because seeing Subaru get handsy with Liliana made Kiritaka lose control, so they were forced to leave. And here's where the anime drops a chilling encounter with regulars, and even though nothing significant happened, the foreboding nature of it was a good way to cut the wholesome tone the entire episode has been showing so far to remind everyone that this is still ReZero. And the reason Emilia doesn't recognize him despite having completed the trial just a year ago was because in the light novel, Regulus was described to be extremely plain looking with no discerning features at all, although she still felt like he was someone she had seen before. Nonetheless, back at the inn, we see a familiar face again. It was Larry, the dude who tried to mug Subaru when he first arrived in the ReZero world, and we soon learn from Reinhard that Larry along with Curly and Mo are now working for the Felt camp, and it was here that Garfield had a reality check when he tried attacking Reinhard, which greatly damaged his pride as a warrior. More on this in a bit. Also, it seems that Anastasia had invited the Crush and Felt camp to Pristella as well, with only the Priscilla camp being absent because Anastasia apparently could not find any proper leverage to offer her. And the reason Anastasia invited the other role selection candidates is to discuss about information on the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, which briefly triggered Subaru, but like I said, he has really learned to control his emotions, which is a running theme that's consistently demonstrated throughout the episode to showcase his character growth. But not only that, this meeting also hints at the strained relationship between Wilhelm and Reinhard, like what was the reason behind Wilhelm's choice to employ help from the Custom family against the White Whale rather than his own Astrea family, and why didn't Reinhard participate in the battle to avenge his grandmother? But I digress, everyone will be getting a moment of reprieve with the amenities of the inn, because this is the only time that our cast of characters gets to chill and let the story flesh out more the interpersonal relationships between characters before going full ReZero. Maybe except for Garfield, who was definitely having it rough this episode, as he's seeing visions of Elsa, and the light novel actually goes deeper into why he was seeing her. To explain, this wasn't the first time that this has happened to Garfield, and he only started seeing Elsa roughly 2 months after leaving the sanctuary. There was apparently an incident where whereby Garfield's weakness almost caused the death of Subaru and Otto, and this event will leave a lasting impression on him. So whenever he feels a sense of weakness or inadequacy, like getting brushed away so easily by Reinhard, it will trigger this apparition. Luckily for Garfield, Mimi's cheerful disposition and blunt nature was able to resolve his internal despair, which is honestly super cute and why they are one of my favorite character pairings to come out of this first episode. Also, the bit where Garfield introduces himself to the children that is saved as the gorgeous tiger shows how much Subaru has influenced him in the year they spent together, and is such a brilliant and subtle way of presenting character growth. However, the biggest reveal we get from this episode is that his mother is still alive and now even has 2 kids, which will likely be addressed in either episode 3 or 4, because if you did not know, this sequence was supposed to have happened in volume 17, but judging from the way they adapted this, it was probably done for pacing reasons. Continuing on, another interesting character moment from the episode was the interaction between Subaru and Wilhelm, where the latter shared some of his personal life experiences with the former. However, when Wilhelm brings up the topic of Reinhard and his regrets about their broken relationship, Subaru not only suggested that he should first approach his grandson with the story of the white whale because it's a common interest for the both of them, but in the light novel, he also told him to keep apologizing until Reinhard eventually forgives him, because doing something is better than being in constant fear of rejection. Unfortunately, the reconciliation efforts of Wilhelm in the following day would be ruined by the appearance of Heinkel Astrea, the current head of the Astrea family, the son of Wilhelm and father of Reinhard, or simply a drunk asshole for lack of a better word. And I just wanted to point out how Emilia really shines through during this confrontation with him. She was able to carry herself with the confidence befitting a raw selection candidate, and showing that she is no longer the insecure girl we know from previous seasons, as she masterfully handled his provocations, even turning the entire situation against him. But the argument was soon interrupted by the arrival of Priscilla, and it was revealed that she intentionally sent Heinkel to ruin their mood just for fun. And Subaru actually suspected in the light novel that she was trying to provoke the other camps in order to get a reaction from them, because if Heinkel was attacked or killed, it might affect the reputation of the camp responsible. That said, when Julius thanks Subaru for standing up for Reinhard in his place, he will share some additional context on the rift involving the Astrea family, which apparently started 15 years ago. So to explain, when Wilhelm was still the captain of the Royal Knights, a member of the royal family was kidnapped and he was tasked to lead the search party. And because it was rumored that Heinkel was behind this kidnapping, something not adapted into the episode, along with being the one who sent his own mother, the former sword saint, to her death by nominating her to take his place in the hunt for the white whale, Wilhelm held a lot of resentment towards not only his son, but his grandson as well, who he blamed for taking away the blessing of Teresa. It was for this reason why Wilhelm walked away from his house, allowing Heinkel to have free reign, because there was a period in time where Reinhard would simply listen to all his commands. That's why the kingdom treated Heinkel so well and gave him a decorative title within the Royal Knights, simply because they feared the possibility of House Astrea rebelling against them, or Heinkel ordering Reinhard to do something crazy, which wasn't mentioned in the anime. Be that as it may, it's nice seeing how Julius and Subaru are presented here, individuals who, despite having a rough first impression, they somehow ended up becoming friends and understand each other the most. Now then, the following sequence involves Subaru, Emilia and Beatrice visiting the park to see Liliana perform, but to their surprise, Priscilla was present as well, dancing along to her singing, and it was quite uncharacteristic of her to not be angered by Liliana's rejection when Priscilla offered to recruit her. Nevertheless, when Subaru was sent to buy some snacks for the girls, it's here we meet Sirius Romanee-Conti, the Sin Archbishop of Wrath, in one of the most gruesome and chilling introductions ever in the series, as she not only throws a child off a building, but seeing the crowd cheering for the act was just insane. And this will be the first time since the sanctuary that Subaru's return by death has triggered, so it's not surprising that he was having a difficult time regaining his composure, because he hasn't experienced this feeling for more than a year. So let's move on to episode 2, but before that, I just want to briefly go over Sirius's character and the blatantly obvious aspect about her, in that she could be a resurrected and memory-wiped Mother Fortuna, because like her, Sirius has romantic feelings for Pitagus, even taking his name and proclaim herself as his wife, not to mention the same physical features they share. However, I personally think this is just a red herring, especially with a different voice actress behind both characters. So what do you guys think of this theory and the possibility of Sirius being Mother Fortuna? Let me know in the comments down below. But back to the topic at hand. Once Subaru regains his composure and realizes his current position, the light novel actually had him acknowledge that this loop is the shortest to date, because in all his previous experiences with Return by Death, he normally had hours or even days to prepare, but this time, the time frame was only 15 minutes, so he immediately rushes over to the clock tower where Sirius will appear. And a bit of context here, Subaru didn't blindly charge him without a plan because in the light novel, he was trying to figure out the conditions for Sirius's authority and the trigger for his return by death, so it's almost certain that he was already mentally prepared to die in this first loop. Also, Subaru showing off his courage by facing Sirius with his whip and even managing to throw her off the building before trying to rescue Luzbel was removed from the anime as well. And it was unfortunate they removed these minor details involving Subaru because it just makes people think that the 1 year time skip did nothing for him, at least in terms of combat proficiency. Nevertheless, Sirius was still alive and she proceeds to kill Subaru in what can only be described as one of the most graphic deaths in the series so far, especially with the addition of the disturbing mental collapse of his psyche in the episode as well. On the second loop, Subaru noted in the light novel how difficult it was to handle 2 consecutive mental breakdowns within the time frame of 30 minutes, but at least he discovered how the authority of Sirius functions, so going over that for a bit, her authority, which Subaru dubbed as soul washing, allows her to create a resonance of emotions among her targets that can be amplified to even cause madness, and the effect is likely triggered from sound or visual contact with Sirius, although it's unknown what's the overall range of her authority. Not only that, as Subaru soon learns in this second loop, she can even link the senses of her victims to share the same pain or injuries as the intended target, which is what happened when Reinhard killed her, as everyone else experienced the same death. And speaking of the fight between Sirius and Reinhard, I was quite disappointed with how abrupt it was. The fight was supposed to be longer in the light novel, but the anime version simply went from his starting attack to how the fight ended. Regardless, waking up for the third loop, Subaru leaves for the clock tower again, but this time with Beatrice. And the small detail of her noticing the subtle expression of Subaru and choosing to trust him without question really shows how close they are with each other, but it seems that Priscilla picked up on this as well. Subaru would then explain the situation to Beatrice, and the reason he seemed stressed in the anime was because in the light novel, he was afraid of triggering the penalty of return by death, so he was trying to carefully choose the necessary information that he reveals. And hearing this, Beatrice suggested using Shamak as a counter because she noticed the authority functioned in a similar manner to the ability Julius used on Subaru when they fought against Pitagus. So if they use a more potent version of Shamak, it might be able to disrupt the emotional resonance around the area, although this will be proven wrong later. Furthermore, because Beatrice will be focusing her efforts on Shamak, there won't be anyone to handle Sirius, and Subaru can't really call Reinhard to help this time because according to Beatrice, his existence itself is considered abnormal in the world, as his mere presence is enough to cause the nearby mana to blindly follow him, leaving magic users or spirits unable to do anything. That's when their conversation will be interrupted by Emilia, who overheard everything. And I love how despite the complaints from Subaru, she stood her ground, showing that she is no longer a pushover and is capable of defending herself. And I found it hilarious the way Emilia just preemptively blasted Sirius with a gigantic piece of ice, but this only added to the anger that Sirius already felt towards her, as she blamed Emilia for taking Pitagus away from her, although in the light novel, she will also direct her anger towards Beatrice for some reason. And some interesting detail about Sirius here, because her name is based on the actual star itself, which means sparkling or scorching in Greek, so it's quite fitting that she is capable of wielding fire magic. So back to the fight, the way that Emilia utilized her ice magic was really cool, constantly switching between weapons like a sword, halberd, hammer, and even tonfas, which is certainly not a fighting style that I would initially expect her to be using, but it's still a great way to show how much she has grown after the time skip. Even Subaru was surprised that she was pressuring Sirius. Also, this particular fight was definitely much better as compared to the light novel, especially with the fluid animation, and having Emilia adding her own sound effects was super cute as well. But as their fight continued, Subaru and Beatrice went to rescue Luzbel, but they don't actually use the spell Mura to get into the clock tower like we see in the episode. Rather, in the light novel, he was fighting against the locals affected by Sirius's authority, and he even used his whip to throw Larry around. There were even a few fighters that Subaru had to take on. Now, once the Luzbel was rescued, Emilia was still fighting Sirius, and we get another instance of character growth for Emilia. She seems to have let go of the shameful distaste she once had towards her own identity and features. Instead, it now empowers her as it serves as a reminder of her mother Fortuna, which is honestly heartwarming to see. And I think if Sirius did not use Tina as a shield, Emilia might have actually stood a chance against her, but alas, she'll be taken out and almost burned alive. And whether this can be considered lucky or unlucky, Regulus arrives to save Emilia from the fire, claiming her as his 79th wife. So with that, episode 2 ends on a cliffhanger, and Subaru now has to face against 2 Sin Archbishops while worrying about saving Emilia. In any case, episode 1 and 2 were amazing openers for the return of ReZero. The first episode provides a brief moment of reprieve for our characters, while helping to develop some of the interpersonal relationship between them, and provide us with some context on the current events, like the Astrea Family rift, the friendship between Subaru and Julius, and Garfield's lack of confidence, so I can understand the 90-minute runtime to get all the slice of life elements out first, and then throwing us right into the action. As for episode 2, it also serves to showcase character growth, but aim more towards Subaru and Emilia. We get a better understanding of the new dynamic between them, along with how Subaru is obviously less reliant on his return by death, while Emilia is more assertive and better at taking care of herself. And I like how, despite being considered the strongest and most overpowered character in the ReZero world, Reinhard isn't always the solution to everything, but he also doesn't need to be nerfed for the sake of the story, which is such a good way of handling a conflict without butchering the character. But yeah, that's my breakdown for episode 1 and 2 of ReZero Season 3, which I honestly really enjoyed. It had the right balance of action, characterizations, urgency to the story, and everyone even got a chance to shine as well. Also, let me know what are some of your favorite moments from both episodes, and if you want me to cover other ReZero topics as well, be sure to leave a comment down below to help with the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.